Good morning and welcome to Over the Target Live. We got a great show this morning. I know you've been hearing a lot about TikTok because it's the world's most popular social media platform. And you've probably also been hearing about a lot of U.S. government officials or elected officials, not just on the right, but surprisingly on the left as well, who are concerned about TikTok, as is the FBI. Thank goodness the FBI is actually focused on something real instead of just targeting Donald Trump and Donald Trump supporters. But even the FBI is worried about TikTok. And the person who's going to be talking about this today, really giving us a fantastic overview of how TikTok works, why people are concerned about it. It's not just data collection. It's also artificial. It's also the artificial intelligence component, which shapes influence, shapes ideas. That's why people are worried about it. And the person who's going to give us the detail on this today is Brian Costello. We're going to go to Brian in 1 second. First, I just want to remind you at the 20-minute mark, if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, speaking of influential social media platforms, we're going to be cutting away from Facebook and YouTube at the 20-minute mark and going to be going exclusively to Epoch TV. Please watch us there. You're not going to want to miss a second. Brian Costello is going to be explaining, again, just from the ground level up. Believe me, I'm not a tech expert. Brian is. If I can understand it, he's the best. Also a tech entrepreneur, tech expert, China expert as well. But just remember, at the 20-minute mark, we're going to be cutting away. I'll give you a little bit of a lead up, but join us. Make that jump at the 20-minute mark. Without further ado, Brian Costello, good morning. You are joining us from the West Coast. Thank you for joining us a little earlier than it is for us folks here on the East Coast. Welcome to Over the Target Live. Once again, Brian, this is I believe it's your second time on the show, and we're going to have you on the show a lot more with all the different stuff that's coming up.
Yeah, congrats on the success of the show, Lee. It's December now, so I'm sporting the holiday tree in the background. So
yeah, looks great. Looks very nice.
Christmas tree. It's Epoch, so I can say Christmas, right?
Merry Christmas. Merry
Christmas to you.
And so let's talk about Christopher Wray, FBI director, is worried about it. On the Republican side, we have Senator Marco Rubio. We have Congressman Mike Gallagher. On the Democratic side, there's Senator Mark Warner. So there's a lot of people who are making a lot of noise about TikTok. And first, if you just want to explain why, then we're going to go to some nuts and bolts, how TikTok works. But yeah, if you can just tell us, what are they worried about?
You know, Lee, I think with TikTok, it's important, and people don't understand the history of it. You know, TikTok was first launched in China as artificial intelligence to deliver news to people, and as we're seeing in the news today, right, there's one thing the Chinese Communist Party wants to do, it's control the narrative with its people. So the first product of ByteDance actually has 3 big products, and TikTok's one of them, was called Chow Chow.
ByteDance is the Chinese company that created TikTok. I just want to make sure that
so it's the owners. So when you hear about the owners of TikTok, they own shares in a company called ByteDance, which has multiple products underneath it. One of them is TikTok, the short form video outside of China, in the US and Europe and in other places. The other one's called Douyin, which is the short form video within China. And then the third one is called Chow Chow, which is a news aggregation service. And there's some other small products in there, but those are the main revenue streams. So a lot of the testimony on the Hill and things you read in the newspaper is about, the Chinese have access to our data through this platform. What I believe is a much bigger risk than the data itself is what they're doing with that data, right? That data, they run through machine learning and artificial intelligence to learn about, Lee Smith, if you're on it, or learn about myself. And then what they're able to do is deliver content that influences you, right? So they can say, America bad, China good. Buy Shein, don't buy Marshalls or Nordstrom's. Vote for this person.
Shein is a Chinese fashion brand.
Shein is a discount Chinese fashion brand. Not majority, but primarily owned by one of the other investors in TikTok. That's just, one of the fastest growing brands in the US. And, of course, there's a lot of rumors about, child labor manufacturing a cheap product in Xinjiang. So So I think what's important for people to understand is that it's the machine learning, the artificial intelligence about, tens, hundreds of millions of people outside of China, and then what China's been known to do with that to actually influence the narrative. This is the ultimate delivery platform to influence decisions and opinions.
How do they, again, spare my ignorance, but I trust we're all going to learn a lot. How does that IA learning work? Right? How do they? So they plug in Lee Smith. They know Lee Smith watches videos of World Cup, videos of World Cup replays, for instance. What are they getting out of that? How do they know? How do they shape Lee Smith's political views, or John Doe's political views? How do they do that?
So what was unique and what was the real innovation in the first product was it was kind of one of the first social media platforms. And I'm told from some inside people, this is why the Chinese Communist Party really liked it early on, that it delivers you content based on your viewing habits, not on who you follow, right? We're both on Twitter, and you get delivered content based on who you follow, right? Here, it actually looks at how long you watch something. So it takes that time. So if you scroll through your, rewind, and watch the World Cup video, it starts to learn okay, Lee likes European football, right? Or Lee likes to learn about what's going on across the world in Israel and other places. So it actually develops a profile for you. But what they're able to do is override that and also insert content that they just want everybody to see, right? So, Xi Jinping elected, Xi Jinping, great man. Xi Jinping, isn't elected. He appointed himself, right? But, can have the world think that there's some democratic process to put him in power. And they can give that to everyone. So they can override they can use the algorithm to do that. And that's why the Chinese government always really liked it. It could deliver content to the users without having them follow anything.
Okay, so let me get this straight. They start building effectively a database on me, or a database on my, or not me. Let's on person.
The average 18-year-old in America.
Okay, all right. That's actually, is that their target? The average 18-year-old? I mean, in the United States.
The Chinese Communist Party, one thing they do better than us, they think long term, right? So, as we know, they're trying to become the dominant global superpower, so they can influence the younger generation. And start there and do it through the platform. It becomes an incredibly powerful tool for them to accomplish what they want over the next 10, 15, 25 years. So they're definitely starting with the younger generation.
Okay, so let's say they're looking at, they've got a Jane Doe, 16-year-old who lives in I don't know, Long Island, and she's interested in fashion because she keeps checking out these. What's the fashion brand again? That Shein. So she's looking at these things. She also starts watching maybe some videos about dance videos or music videos, and then they start inserting other stuff. They start inserting at whenever they want. So the algorithms take care of feeding her fashion stuff and dance stuff, but when they want to, they can insert in political content as well.
They can insert political content, and we know from, I think it was Newsweek did a great piece once. What they really also want to do is insert divisive content and get us in America, disliking each other and thinking we're further apart than we are. So they can use it to actually, over time, destroy a culture.
Right. And this is part of my understanding, and you and I have spoken a little bit about this, that this is part of the, a lot of the material on trans ideology. They're inserting a tremendous amount of stuff on there. And this, of course, is what gave rise to the Twitter user Libs of TikTok, right? She was identifying this the way they were pushing this. So is the trans stuff, do you think that that's a component of how the CCP is working to divide American families?
Yeah, look at Libs of TikTok's a perfect example, right? Because you can just cherry pick the most extreme liberal content, and you can shape a narrative that this is what all liberals are like, right? When many liberals are, closer to you and I in the middle than the extremes. So they can actually just one channel, right, can shape a narrative. They can use it to influence elections. They can use it to, and so the data is valuable in that they can kind of find people from location and then they can target content. And we've seen this, right? There's Tara McGowan, who ran Packard and one of the big Biden supporters. She was paying TikTok influencers to put out misinformation about the January 6th events. And a lawyer caught her in the process trying to do that. And this is being done with political donations to actually try and it becomes the ultimate divisive and misinformation tool if there isn't the right regulation around it. And when it's being run out of China, there's not going to be the right regulation around it.
Can it be? I mean, can this thing be regulated, or does it need to be shut down? I'm going to use this as well to lead into a couple comments that we're already getting, but let me just start off with that. I mean, can this be regulated? What you're describing is a mighty powerful tool. How do you go to someone and say, well, yeah, it's okay for you to show videos, but we don't want you collecting. We want you collecting only a percentage of the data you're collecting, and no more shaping opinions in the United States.
Well, listen, and this is when Trump banned it. This was the big, this was the big question, right? It was like they wanted the source code for the algorithm so that the CCP couldn't insert anything or override it or instruct people that work there that are loyal to the party to do it. And this is what the big debate was, right? And what they've tried to do now is they tried to get the American public to focus on, it's about where the access to the data is. So we're going to move the, data from Beijing to Bentonville, right? And, and that's going to be okay. But it's actually not the data. It's how the data is being used and how the platform can be used to manipulate public opinion. That's a real issue. So I think that the safest bet is just to ban it. I mean, that's what India did.
Right. Like we've got a comment here from a guy, Robbie, I think the guy from a viewer, Robbie Cox 91, kind of like MasterCard and Disney. But what you're saying is, again, it's not right. We all know that our data is being collected, for instance, by Amazon and by lots of other places. But what you're saying is how this is being used. It's not just being used to market goods to us. You're talking about how it's also being used to shape ideas, how we think, how we interact with other Americans, with our families.
Well, 100%. And listen, Robbie's point's a good one because, it is a little bit like what goes on with MasterCard and Disney. But TikTok and ByteDance are moving into that area, right? They're one of the things they're doing is the equivalent of TikTok in China, which is called Douyin. It has integrated commerce, right? So they're actually collecting data and transactions. And TikTok's already announced they're building logistics facilities in the US. So they're going to move to try and they know they have the ultimate engine to influence decisions. So there are obviously political and ideology places you can influence decisions, but one place you can make a lot of money influencing decisions is, with products, right? So you can serve users like information about Shein and these discount products. It was one of the first things that was really successful on TikTok was, I have a teenage daughter and the young girls were doing these TikTok Shein hauls, and you're seeing packages, show up from China in the house. So they're displacing Nordstrom and, folks like this with low wage discount, cheap products from China on the platform.
What you're talking about here seems to be combining, simplifying and streamlining what Amazon has done, right? Amazon, you have both the marketing side, but then its owner, Jeff Bezos, who is also the owner of the Washington Post. So if we're talking about what is both a merchandising, but also messaging operation, I mean, the TikTok guys are saying, yeah, we don't need the Washington Post. We'll just message right out of here, right off of TikTok.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine if you gave Jeff Bezos to, own an app on every phone that people spent 2-3 hours a day and you could influence their opinion, he would love to own something like that, right? He would drive a lot of commerce to Amazon and its retailers. It's a great analogy.
Sorry, Brian. Just the comment from John Bliss. I don't know if this is the gentleman who's on social media before made a good point. It sounds a little like him. We all know it's a security threat. Trump warned us before his first day in office. As usual, he was 100% spot on, but it's a powerful tool for the left. It is essentially their entire playbook to use it. Well, this raises a big question. If people on the left and as well as the right, like Senator Warner, are worried about it, and Christopher Wray, who has not been certainly a great friend of the America First movement, if they're all worried about it, why won't the Biden administration, why won't they act on it? And what is their deliberation about? Why is everyone warning and the White House seems not to have done anything, aside from bring in TikTok influencers and use TikTok to influence younger voters? Is that why the Biden team is not doing anything?
I mean, listen, Lee, I don't know if you saw Elon Musk's tweet that Twitter was used to influence elections by the Democratic Party, right? So
I did see that, yeah.
Obviously, the Chinese government, wants globalists. They want people who don't want to shut off investment into China. They want people who don't want to call out their protectionist and mercantilist policies. So they have a platform into America to do that. So they're going to align with people to use a platform. So you're seeing, it amazes me, right? You're seeing folks like Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden using TikTok, while the head of the FBI and the chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee from their own party are telling people this is a huge risk to the country. It's like, well, maybe they should stop using it, right? But what they're doing is it's become a platform, and some of the PACs that support them are also lining up, paying influencers, and using it as an ultimate decision. And I think it's a real challenge for us.
Your comparison to the Elon Musk tweet is really important, because of course we see Janet Yellen, Treasury Secretary, saying we may have to review Musk's purchase of Twitter, and we see now the EU going after Elon Musk as well and Twitter. But yeah, again, here we have, here we have TikTok, and they're not making anywhere near as much noise in the White House as about TikTok as they are about Twitter.
Yeah, it's I think there's a couple issues. I think one of the issues is about how they can use it to maintain political power, which seems to be a lot of people's interest over what's best for the American people in the competition. Listen, at the end of the day, if we lose our economic superiority to China, it's not going to be a great world. We already saw just China was able to support the Russian war financially. They're certainly not going to address fentanyl coming into the country, killing people, and it will weaken the dollar. So everybody hears all these things and says China doesn't affect me. China affects every single person watching the show and every single person on every social media platform. It's an authority.
I think it was Representative Gallagher who compared TikTok to social media fentanyl. I mean, it is astonishing, though, even leaving aside immigration, leaving aside open borders, that the administration doesn't realize or does realize the dangers of fentanyl, as well as TikTok, and won't do anything about it. This is very strange, right? A lot of people have talked about the Bidens and their relationship with the Chinese and the money going back and forth, or the money going to the Bidens. But I mean, it looks like we're just talking about the tip of the iceberg here. If this is something the administration should be doing, protecting Americans, especially young people, from this garbage, the fact that they're not doing it is astounding.
I think there's two things right now going on that are incredibly important in our geopolitical issues with China. One is what happens with TikTok, right? This is a proxy for all investment into China. So if they can work out TikTok, which is the ultimate influence platform in the US, and China and the investors get to own that's a real problem for America. And then the second is how these are going to be capitalized. We can talk about this a little bit later in the show, but the plan here is, okay, let's resolve TikTok. Let's fool the American people on how it's resolved, and let's take it public, and let's make a bunch of political donors a whole lot of money, and forget about what's good for the American people.
Brian, this is a great lead in because this is exactly what I want to talk about when we come back from our short break. Again, if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, make the jump with us because Brian is going to put some detail on an enormous issue that hardly anyone talks about, which is Wall Street's relationship with the Chinese Communist Party and CCP companies, right? We hear a lot about trade. We hear a lot about, we hear about national security issues, but this is fundamental. And Brian's going to talk about it when we come back right after the break. Make the jump with us. See you in a sec. That's what William Barr was supposed to be focused on. The fact that American spies had inserted themselves into our democratic political process.
Many people had very high expectations when William Barr was appointed Attorney General.
He was saying things like this in his confirmation hearings, right? He wanted to get to the bottom of what happened.
The FBI went to social media like Facebook and basically told them not to report on the laptop story. Did William Barr not have control over what the FBI was doing?
Why didn't William Barr at any point stand up and defend President Trump? Thank you for making the jump. You won't be sorry. You need to hear this. It's really important. Brian, we cut off right as you were making